The valley, older than its mountains. The peaks came and went. Ice broke them. Rivers carried them, grain by grain, to the sea. But the floor had lain in that light, before there was a word for light, before there was a mouth to make the word. The Jhelum moved through it, as it had moved 10,000 years, before any man thought to give the river a name. This was Kashmir. Kashmir before the cushions came. Kashmir after they went. The Brahmins kept their groves, the farmers kept their fields, the jackals kept their territories at the pond's edge. The old man left his hut at the same hour, the same path, the same direction. Not only habit, the path and the hour had been chosen long ago for good reason, and the reason had not changed. Vishnu Sharma, 80 years old, his dhoti, clean, white, washed for 60 years in cold water. His staff, teak, cut by his wife decades ago. He had not replaced it. To replace it would be to acknowledge that she was gone. And he preferred not to acknowledge this more than once a day. He was thin, not frail. The thinness of a man who has eaten one meal a day for 60 years is not diminishment, it is reduction. The unnecessary removed, the essential remaining. As a blade is made by what the grindstone takes away. He walked slowly, he had earned the right to walk slowly. Behind him, the conch shell, the evening prayer, women carrying water, the way women had carried water since before any scripture was written. A child's voice, a mother's answer, the wooden wheel of a cart, a sound like a question asked in a language of which only one word had survived. He did not look back. He had seen the village. He had been seeing it for 32 years. He came to the pond. They were there before him. Two jackals, gray gold flanks nearly touching, facing south. The smaller one turned its head. A gesture passed between them, brief as breath, the meaning of which a man could not read, but which had unmistakably the shape of meaning. He stood still. He had lived long enough to know that an old man standing still at dusk is invisible. The smaller said something. He knew this was not the word. Made a sound, moved a muscle, shifted a paw, and the larger, without turning, without responding in any visible way, changed. Whatever had been said had landed, he thought. I know this. I have known this for 80 years, and I have still not named it. Two animals upon dusk, one speaking, one listening, a choice being made between them with consequences neither could see yet. He had watched men in palace courts do exactly this, monks in forest schools, his wife across 30 years of marriage, and on the balance of it, she had been better at it than he was. The jackals moved into the sedge grass, disappeared. The pond held the last of the western light on its surface. The dark cut of the far mountains inverted. The whole world turned upside down and flattened to silver. He thought, what if an old man wrote down what they did not say? He did not think it again. He turned, he walked back along the tamarind path. The thought settled behind him like dust behind a cart. He forgot it. Oh, he thought he forgot it. In the way a man thinks he has put down a stone, when in fact he has only shifted it to his other hand. In his hot tea, the lamp, he ate his one meal. He washed his hands, he slept. The jackals, somewhere in the dark, were still speaking.
A kingdom that did not trouble history. Foothills. A day's ride from the river. Tribute paid on time. A fort of red sandstone. A market 3 days a week. One temple cracking at the east face. A king named Amarashakti. One whose power is unending. A name his father gave him in the optimism of early fatherhood. A name the years had complicated. He had 3 sons. This was the problem. The messenger came in the early morning, before the dew had finished its work on the dust. Young, uncomfortable, used to carrying news of armies, not this. The old man heard the horse before he saw it. He did not look up. "Sit," he said. "The fire is already made. There is no chair. The ground is older than chairs and serves the same purpose." The message: 3 sons, great in birth, deficient in everything that birth is given to produce, not cruel, not wicked, simply uninterested. 12 teachers in 4 years, 12 refunds, 12 apologies. The king was not young. Succession was present at every meal. The name had arrived through a chain. The messenger could not trace. A merchant, a physician from Ujjain, a cousin of a Brahmin. A specification followed the name. Not a teacher who lectures, a teacher who tells stories. The princes could listen to a story, whatever else they could not do. The old man asked their names. He asked what they liked. The messenger paused. "Eating," he said. "They like eating. That is something." The rice water was boiling. He lifted the pot and set it on the flat stone. He poured a cup. The messenger drank with both hands as was proper. "How old is the youngest?" 14. "The oldest?" 18. He nodded slowly. He was calculating something that had nothing to do with numbers. Where the 3 boys who had failed 12 teachers were unreachable or merely unmet, there was a difference. He did not answer that morning. He walked the tamarind path again. The jackals did not come. The pond was undisturbed. The light arrived from the west at its useful angle. He stood at the edge and watched the far bank for a long time.
He was 80 years old, 6 months of princes. The thought arrived with weight, a tiredness in the shoulders before the decision was made. 50 years of young men, he knew what they cost. The patience, the repetitions, the slow work of finding the particular gap in a particular mind through which an idea could pass. What would he offer that 12 others had not? The same mathematics, the same statecraft, the same Vedic text already known by rote and not by comprehension. There was no new knowledge for princes, only the same old knowledge offered differently, offered perhaps in the shape of a story in the mouths of animals who did not know they were teaching, so that the student did not know he was being taught. He thought of the 2 jackals, the smaller one turning its head, something wordless in the cell of its jaw, the larger one receiving it, a choice made, a direction taken, the unseen consequence already moving ahead of them into the dark sedge grass in motion before they moved. What if an old man wrote down what they did not say? He was still carrying the stone. He had not put it down after all. In the morning, before the messenger had finished eating, he gave his answer. Tell the king I will come 6 months. No land, no silver, no title. Bring the boys to me each morning before they have eaten. Hunger makes a mind supple, but the end of 6 months the boys will be changed. Not because I will have lectured them, because I will have told them stories. The king will think this is a lesser thing. He will discover it is the only thing. The messenger wrote nothing. He was not that kind of messenger. He was the kind who listened and remembered. Which is the older phone, the more reliable one? He mounted, he rode south. The old man turned back to his grove, to his small fire, to the pot that still needed washing. 6 weeks before the first lesson, 6 weeks to decide what story to tell first, how to begin it, which animal should speak. He already knew, he had known since the evening by the pond. He went to wash the pot, he was smiling in the way old men smile when they have finally agreed to do the thing they were always gonna do.
The messenger had been gone 4 days. Then the doubt arrived. This was customary. Doubt was not first, it was second. They waited until the decision was made irreversible, until the messenger was 3 days south on a good horse. Then it came unhurried. He had made enough decisions in 80 years to know this pattern. Doubt was weather. It did not mean the crop would fail, it meant the crop required attention. The doubt was this. He had told 12 teachers the princess could not be reached. He was now proposing to do what he had said could not be done. 2 certainties, facing each other across a narrow path, neither willing to step aside. He sat with it in the grove at the pond's edge. He carried it to the well, into the hut at night where the lamp burned until the oil was gone. The doubt was not painful, simply present. The way a stone in a sandal is present, enough to alter each step. On the 5th morning, before the sky had decided to be light, he rose, he walked to the temple. The tower needed repair, it had needed repair for 20 years. The cracks were no longer defects, they were features, evidence of long habitation by time. The priest was not yet there. he lit a lamp. He sat on the stone floor before the image of the god. Some days he found its serenity consoling, some days aggravating. Today it was consoling. He sat, he did not chant, present in the body, loose in the mind, available. His teacher came to him, not in any supernatural sense, the way the dead come to the people who knew them well. A voice absorbed into the listener's own thinking, no longer possible to say where memory ends and reasoning begins. Devadatta a forest school in the Ganges plain. He was 7, certain of nothing except that he was hungry. A small, compact Brahmin, a quick laugh, a habit of teaching through questions rather than answers, which at 7 he had found maddening, which at 30 he had found to be the most generous form of instruction he had ever received. Devadatta had studied with Sama Shaman, who had studied with a man whose name Devadatta could not always remember. Lineages no one living could fully name. 7 generations, perhaps more, back to a time when the only reliable vessel for knowledge was a living mind. This, Devadatta had told him once, is what a teacher is. A vessel that carries a lamp from one dark room to the next. The vessel is temporary, the lamp is the thing. And once, in an afternoon, that it moved from grammar to philosophy without either of them noticing. Devadatta said, a wise man is a debt owed to the future. He is given his wisdom on credit, he must pass it on or he dies a thief. He had been 12, he had not understood it the way a 12-year-old understands a mathematical principle. He had understood it the way a seed understands the shape of the tree it will become. Not yet, not in full, but committed. He understood it now. He sat in the lamplight a long time. The village came awake, a conjured dog answered by another dog. The first cartwheel turning, the texture of the world in which the decision had to be carried out. Neither better nor worse than the world in which Devadatta had made his and Samashar man before him. He thought about the princes, 3 boys, 14, 16, 18. The oldest nearly a man already formed in his habits, which made him the hardest and the most important. 12 teachers had failed the same approach. Knowledge delivered as commandment, all true, all useless to a boy who would not receive it. A commandment goes in at the ear and stops there. A story goes in at the ear and continues. It moves through the mind like water through soil, arrives eventually at roots the gardener did not plant. He had known this all his life, he had simply not until now applied it at sufficient scale. The opening tale formed itself without effort. 2 jackals, one loyal, one ambitious. A lion who would trust the wrong one. The lion's friend, a great bull, destroyed by a whisper. The lesson, wearing the mask of a story. They would hear animals, they would laugh. Perhaps they would not know until years later, in the middle of some crisis of governance, that they were remembering what the jackal had said, recognizing he had remembered to do. He rose, his knees were stiff, he left the temple in the first gray light of the morning. He walked back through the village, calm, not from certainty, from the surrender of the argument. The argument was over, the work remained, and work at least was simple. He sat at the writing board, he took up the reed pen. He held it a long time without writing. He wrote the first line, he crossed it out. He wrote it again, differently. The book had begun, though he would not have called it a book. He would have called it an obligation, an old debt, come due. Come due.
He came on foot. Dry season. Tamarind leaves small and dusty. 22, quick-handed, quick-eyed. His name was Yajnadatta. His father had been a scribe in Ujjain. He had been copying since he was 9. The old man was watching a crow open the satchel. Palm leaves, lampblack ink, reed pens, a blade for sharpening. You can write as fast as a man speaks. Faster, we will see. The princes came at dawn, 3 of them. The oldest had his father's jaw. The middle was already going to fat. The youngest looked sideways at the grove, curious, not yet taught to hide. The old man looked at the youngest and thought, there, no preamble. In a great forest, in the time before the time you know, there lived a lion. The scribe dipped his pen. He had expected philosophy, Vedic texts, the categories of governance. He had not expected a lion. He wrote, the ink dried fast in the dry air. He was faster than a man speaks. He had room to listen. A bull had wandered from a caravan. A lion drew back from his own river. 2 jackals watched, Karataka careful, Damanacus burning. I would rather burn inside a great house than freeze outside a small one. The youngest prince laughed, a sound he immediately swallowed. The scribe did not laugh, but somewhere beneath the concentration, he had known a Damanacus he could not yet say where. 6 months passed, the dry season exhausted itself. The rains came, a gray wall from the southwest. Lessons moved inside, wet thatched lamplight. The smell of one he would never again smell without the other. The princes kept coming, the youngest never stopped. The oldest came back from a fever, thinner, quieter, as though something unnecessary had been burned away. A callus formed on the side of his middle finger. He regarded it the way a craftsman regards the marks his tools leave, evidence of something actually done. The minister made useless by peace is the most dangerous of ministers. He will manufacture the war he requires. The youngest asked, "Is that what bad ministers do?" It is what bad ministers have always done, and good princes have always failed to see it coming, which is why the story is still worth telling. At the end of the 6th month, the chariot came, gilded, 2 gray horses, red cloth at the neck, silver, a deed to land, a letter in the king's own hand. The old man folded the letter, set it aside. "Tell your father I will not take the silver." He will ask what payment. 10 copies of this book made by the best scribes in Pataliputra, sent to 10 cities. He will think that is not enough. Tell him it is everything. The princes rode south, the grove went quiet, and the way it went quiet at the end of each day, not silent. The birds still in the china, the frogs with their opinions, but the human voices gone, the space between things restored. The scribe sat with the manuscript, 5 bundles, cotton thread, cloth wrapping, leather case. It could be carried by one man on one shoulder. He knew its weight precisely. He opened the first bundle, he read what he had written himself. He read the bull's death, he read Damanacus' quiet ascension. He sat with it in the diminishing light. He thought about the king he would serve one day, the ministers he would meet, the Damanacus. He had known 3 of them, he had been grateful for their attention without understanding what their attention cost. He thought about the scribes in Pataliputra he would never meet, the cities he knew only his distances, the princes in courts built on ground when nothing had yet been built. He did not have the words, not a 22, for what he understood. He would acquire them later, and by then he would no longer need them. He had what he needed now, that what he was holding had somewhere to go that neither of them could see. The going of it was the point. Outside, the jackals had come to the pond. Not words, not quite sound presence. The pressed down grass, the night shift toward its own purposes. He did not go to look. He had learned from watching the old man watch them, that the moment you move toward them, the thing you wanted to see is gone. He sat still, he listened. They were still speaking. 270 years. Not long for an idea, long for an empire. The Guptas had gone, the fire was out, the heat remained. Manuscripts still moved between the universities, leather satchels, old roads, men walking. To the northwest, the world had rearranged itself. Ctesiphon, a vaulted arch visible from a day's ride in 3 directions. Khosrow, Anushirvan, the immortal soul. He collected knowledge the way his ancestors collected gold. Understanding that knowledge, unlike gold, increases in the using. He summoned his physician, Burzo, 41. Brown hands, the long, careful fingers of a man who works at close range. He did not sleep enough. He thought too much about his failures. The correct proportion for a physician, an uncomfortable one for a man. The king had heard of a herb in the forests of India. Applied to a dead man, it restored him to life. Burzo waited to be certain this was not metaphor. It was not metaphor. He bowed.
I will find it, Majesty, or I will bring back a truthful account of why it does not exist." The king looked at him. "Those are not the same thing. No, they are not." He left in the spring, the plateau cold at altitude, hot in the valleys, a landscape that commits completely to whatever it is doing. He arrived in India in the monsoon. He asked every physician. He had descriptions, 3 of them, that disagreed on everything except the essential property. He found nothing. He came to Ujjain in the 8th month in from the road, clear-eyed in the way that long travel makes a man clear-eyed. The unnecessary thoughts walked off, only the essential ones remaining. The pandit's house was at the edge of the city, whitewashed mud, 2 goats upon the granite tree, older than the house. He listened, he waited, then he laughed, not unkindly. The laugh of a man who has heard a question and recognized in it an error too large to be corrected. "You have come a very long way, yes. For a herb, yes. There is no such herb." Burzo had known this for 6 months, no. The old man went inside. He returned with the bundle wrapped in faded cloth. He unwrapped it with the care of someone who had handled it many times. Palm leaves darkened with age, lamp-black ink faded in places to brown. "This is the herb." Burzo looked at him. A book, a book. There is no preparation that returns a dead man to life, but there is a preparation that makes a living man alive in ways he was not alive before. This is the preparation. He read it in the courtyard until the light failed. He read it by lamp when the light failed. He read it after the bandit slept, the clay lamp between his knees, the goats breathing softly, the pomegranate tree a dark shape against a sky of exceptional stars. 2 jackals upon the lion, a bull loyal and enormous, destroyed by a whisper. He knew them, he had treated their fevers in a dozen courts. He was a physician. He read the body for its signs. This book read the body politic in exactly the same way. Here is where the deception enters. Here is the moment the king stops seeing clearly. Here is what it cost him. He understood why Khosrow had sent him for an herb of immortality. The wrong request made in the right direction, like a man who cannot name his illness but points accurately to where it hurts. He had not found what he was sent to find. He had found something that would last longer than any herb. Longer, he was now certain. The empire that had sent him. In the morning, he asked if a copy could be made. "You are going to translate it into Pahlavi for the king. The king sent you for the herb. The king will understand the difference. He is that kind of king. There are conditions. Tell me. You will write a preface in your own voice. You will say who you are and why you came and what you found instead of what you sought. The book has always traveled with the preface. Each translator leaves something of himself at the door before he enters. He thought about what he would write about the herb that did not exist, about the doubt that had followed him across the plateau like a second shadow, about the patience he had buried in the question he had never been able to stop asking, whether the living and the dead were separated by as much as everyone assumed, or only by the theme. This book was seemed to know the story, told correctly, crosses that distance. He picked up the palm, the thundle held it in his physician's hands. Those long, careful fingers trained to feel what the surface concealed, and felt nothing unusual. Old leaves, dried ink, cotton thread. He held it a moment longer, then he set it down and called for his interpreter and asked where in Ujjain a man could find a good scribe.
Last week of monsoon. The road still uncertain. 6 weeks of copying, 2 scribes, a pandit checking each leaf. A cedarwood box, resin, and beneath the resin, something older I could not name. I placed it at the center of the donkey's load between the instruments and my sleeping roll. If the donkey fell, the rest would absorb the blow. I had not survived 20 years of medicine by being sentimental about the hierarchy of objects. The plateau received us in the old way of the plateau, without interest, vast indifference, beautiful in the manner of things that have forgotten they are being observed. The Hindu Kush showed its upper teeth of snow, a pale dust, the color of old bone covered everything. Within half a day, the world looked like a preliminary sketch of itself. 11 hours a day I stopped when the light went. I wrote by campfire, not the translation. The preface, the voice at the door. I am not by temperament a man who writes about himself. I write about symptoms, but the preface required self-examination, so I performed it the way I would a difficult diagnosis, noting what was present, noting what was absent, not flinching. I wrote about my father who wanted me to be a minister. I wrote about the moment the surgeon closed the wound with silk thread. I wrote about the patients I had not saved and the question that never left me. If the body is so frail, the mind so brief, the soul so disputed, what exactly is it that a physician preserves? I wrote, I came seeking a preparation to restore the dead. I return with the preparation that makes the living more fully alive. I have decided these are not different things. I crossed it out, I wrote it again, I left it. 12 days from the Indus, the brown camel lay down at a well and did not rise. Animals die on roads, this is one of the things roads are for. The next day, 3 priests, fire keepers, white robes gone road gray, the firebox covered against the dust. But I could see the small red eye of the coal when the wind moved the cloth. What is in the box? A manuscript. What kind? A collection of stories about animals, the sort of thing told to princes to teach them how courts work. He looked at me a long time. He believed the borders between civilizations were also the borders between orders of truth. He nodded, he let me pass. The dust settled back as it had been. Tesiphon appeared on the horizon 3 days before we reached it. The great arch, 40 meters of brick, no more failing for 2 centuries. It made a man feel that whatever he was carrying in from the road was not yet worthy of the room it was about to enter. The king received me in the smaller room, carved stucco blue tile. I set the box on the low table. I stepped back, there is no herb. I said, I know. He said, I knew when I sent you. Then why? Because I wanted to know what you would bring back instead. A physician who believes that everything medicine cannot provide does not exist is a physician whose imagination is grown too small for his work. He opened it, he held the palm leaves. The jackals, he said, yes. And the preface, each translator leaves something of himself at the door. What will you leave? The truth about why I went about what medicine cannot do, and what a story can. Outside, the tigress in its ancient business, brown, wide, unimpressed, writing, he said, the honest version. I have ministers who will tell me what I want to hear. You are the man I send to tell me what is true. At the door, he stopped without turning. The preface will outlast the translation, it always does. I stood alone in the tiled room with the palm leaves, the cedarwood box, and the preface already complete in the notebook in my bag. The preface he had just, without reading it, described with an accuracy that made the hair on my arms rise. I carried the manuscript to my rooms. I opened the notebook at the first page. I read what I had written by campfires across 5 months of plateau and mountain and crossing. I did not change a word. The jackals and the palm leaves beside me were still speaking. They spoke now in Pahlavi. They had more to say. The round city had stood 7 years. Baghdad, a perfect circle, 4 gates. roads running inward like spokes toward the one point where power lived. 100 kilometers south, the arch of Khosrow still stood, the old empire skeleton, politely refusing to fall. Berzo had been dead 180 years. His manuscript moved hand to hand, copy to copy, Tesafin to Samarkand. It arrived in Basra, the way the right book always arrives. Too late to be comfortable, too early to be ignored. His name was Ruzbe, then Abdullah, then son of the crippled one. Persian by birth, Muslim by conversion, Arab by ambition. He had taken the language of the conquerors and made of it something finer than most of the conquerors could manage. He was 34, he did not love governors. This was one of his problems, he had several. The scribe arrived at the second hour after sunset. Abdelhamid, 26, Syrian Christian, trained in an historian hand. He understood his friend the way a craftsman understands a difficult instrument, completely in use, imperfectly at rest. The lion speaks tonight. He must sound like a caliph without sounding like our caliph. A difficult interval, a precise interval. Sit down. He wrote the jackal's voice smooth, economical evidence that was technically accurate and directionally false. He wrote the lion's face as the lie was poured into it. The tightening of the jaw, the small shift in the eyes, from openness to something harder. The beginning of the end of the friendship. He set the pen down. I know him, Damanacus. I have known him 10 years. He sits 2 rooms to the left of the governor's chair. His name is Sufyan. He has been whispering to every lion who will receive him since before I arrived in the city. You should not say that. I have said worse in verse with his name attached. I know, that is what I mean. 8 months ago, he had written a document of safe conduct for a rebel prince. Every legal formulation closed, every loophole considered. The caliph could not revoke it without violating the law. His own legitimacy rested upon. The caliph was not pleased. The displeasure existed somewhere in the palace, unspoken, patient, gathering the particular weight that displeasures gather when they are allowed to sit. He picked up the pen, he wrote the bull's death, 20 lines. The moment the lion saw what the jackal had taught him to see, the friendship ending in the space between 2 heartbeats. The terrible speed of it. He wrote Kurataka, watching from the court's edge, saying nothing, knowing it was already done. The scribe's pen had stopped. Keep writing, I am reading. Copy first, read when you are home. You know they will come. Probably. And you are writing faster because of it, not slower, also probably. This is not rational behavior, no, but consider. If they come tomorrow, these exist tonight. If these exist tonight, then there is one copy made by morning. Then tomorrow doesn't matter. The scribe looked at him the way Kurataka looked at the court, seeing clearly helpless already morning. He dipped his pen, he copied. By the 3rd hour after midnight, the lamp had been refilled once. The gulf wind moved through the date palms with a sound like the turning of pages. He rolled his copied sheets, stuck them inside his roll without discussion, the way a man does something whose purpose does not require explanation. At the door, the preface. Berzo's, will you keep it? I want to say what I say, which is, he stood in the lamplight, the manuscript closed behind him, the night still fully around them. That this book was not written by one man, it was written by everyone who ever watched the jackal speak into a lion's ear and understood what was happening and could not stop it. And the reason to write it down in every language in every century is not that we believe the next lion will listen. It is that the next Kurataka, the one who watches from the edge, the one who knows should not have to watch alone. The scribe stood in the doorway a moment longer, then he was gone. He went back to his desk. He was not finished, he would not be finished tonight. He picked up the pen and the jackals resumed their ancient argument, and the lamp burned and the gulf wind turned the date palms, and Basra moved to its dark hours toward whatever morning it had waiting. The soldiers came at the 1st hour of morning, the hour chosen by men who know the body at first light is at its lowest. 4 of them. They did not knock. He was at his desk. This surprised them. He was writing. He finished the sentence before he looked up. "One moment," he said. He set the pen down. He blotted the page. He rose. "The governor." It was not a question. "I'll need my robe." Abdelhamid heard them from the room above, which is to say, he did not hear them. He heard the silence soldiers make in a sleeping street. He had learned this in childhood. At the second hour, a boy came to the window. He sat on the mat for a long time. He looked at the road sheets inside his robe, the sheets he had placed there every night for 6 weeks. What came next was copying. He lit the lamp, he took the sheets, he arranged them, fresh paper, good linen. He began to copy. His hand did not shake, he understood. It was not steadiness, it was concentration. The body finding its work the way a man holds to a wall in water. Not because the wall is safe, because it is the only thing available to hold. When the light was sufficient, he stopped. He went to the governor's house. Sufyan ibn Muawiyah, governor of Basra, patient in his hatreds, he had prepared the oven himself. The detail Abdelhamid would spend the rest of his life wishing he had not heard. He stood in the street for 2 hours, a copyist, a Christian, a man of no title. He heard nothing, a woman's voice, a wheel on stone. The date palms moved in the gulf wind, the sound he had been hearing since childhood without ever finding another word for it. The sound of pages turning in a book slightly too large for any single pair of hands. At midday, a servant came out with ashes in a clay pot. He walked to the canal, he threw the ashes into the water. He did not look at Abdelhamid. Abdelhamid turned and walked north. 4 days to Baghdad, a copyist named Mahmoud, a shop off the bookseller's street. The smell of paper, the smell of new ink drying. He laid the sheets on the table, Kalila and Dimna. Mahmoud said, his translation, "I need copies made, as many as possible, as quickly as possible, to as many cities as can receive them." The governor cannot now unwrite what is already written. Come back tomorrow. He came back tomorrow, and the day after, a week between the copyists, scribes, binders, illuminators, details moving through the city faster than caravans, quieter than messengers. A month, 30 copies, 3 months, 300 in a year. Kufa, Mosul, Damascus, Fustat, Cairo, Al-Andalus. Sufyan governed 4 more years, died of a fever as governors do. He is remembered for one thing. 30 years later, Abdelhamid was old, aware of the weight in a way he was not aware at the beginning. He still copied, his hand slower, the lamp closer. The grandson came on Fridays, 9 years old, a serious child, ears open, the jackals. The boy said, "You said you would tell it." He had said it 6 Fridays ago. The boy had waited 6 Fridays. "Come here." He found the copy in the chest, the paper rubbed soft with handling. He told the boy the story the way he had heard it told, not read told. When Damanacus whispered into the lion's ear, the boy's eyes sharpened. When the bull died, the boy was very still. Is Damanacus the bad one? Yes. And does he win? He wins the argument, he does not win the story. What is the difference? The argument ends when the lion decides. The story continues after the lion is dead. The story is still here. Damanacus is not. The boy touched the cover, one finger briefly, the reverence of the child touching something older than the room it sits in. The recognition, the lamp passing from one hand to another. The transaction completed so quietly, neither party could say when it happened. He set the manuscript on the desk between them. Keep coming on Fridays.
years more.
Toledo, a city on a rock, told many times to come down, decided, finally. The view was reason enough to stay. The tag is bent around it, brown, slow. Older than the walls, the Christians had held it 150 years before them. The Muslims, 370 before them. The Visigoths, before them. Rome, before Rome, the Celtiberians. Give a man a rock high enough, a river wide enough, and he will build. No further discussion. The Jewish quarter clung to the western slope. White-walled lanes hold in the way. Houses become old when families do not leave them. Not ruined, deepened, each repair absorbed into the last. The original and the addition indistinguishable, which is also how a tradition works. Rabbi Yosef ben Shlomo,
63 years on the western slope.
He read Arabic, he read Aramaic, he read the Latin of the church with the competence he found useful and personally irrelevant. He had been asked to study the book of the jackals, a month's work. He thought he had been at it 8. The scriptorium, thick stone, south-facing windows, light that sometimes made a man feel the inadequacy of his own eyes. The smell of parchment, iron gal ink. The king was 30, newly crowned. He wanted the book in Castilian. He wanted a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian to make it together, because this method produced what none of the three would have produced alone. The difficulty was the lion, the Sanskrit and the Pahlavi, and the Arabic and the Hebrew. The Lion King was a lion. The young Castilian cleric wanted to make him a king, just a king. The Muslim said
Quietly,
the animal was the point. The animal was the disguise that allowed the text to say what it said. A king who reads of a jackal whispering to a lion understands without feeling accused. The mask must be maintained. Rabbi Yosef listened. The argument was correct on both sides, which was why it was interesting. He said, give the reader less help than you think he needs. He will fill the space himself. What he supplies from his own experience will lodge more deeply than what the text supplies for him. The jackal should remain a jackal. The lion should remain a lion. If we draw the conclusion for him, we have written a different book. Fernand was quiet.
a different book, he said.
Or the same book for a different reader.
The same reader, said the rabbi.
A different opinion of himself. The lion remained a lion. 3 men, 3 doors into the same building. The afternoon light moved across the table in a slow diagonal. They moved with it. The Manaka entered the court in Castilian. Still a jackal, quicker, harder. A jackal who wasted nothing. The rabbi wrote a note. Each language discovers a different jackal. The jackal is not changed. The language reveals a different angle of the same animal. He folded it, put it in his pocket. It was not for the translation, it was for himself. The king came on a Thursday. He read in silence. His lips did not move after a time.
This is better than the Latin.
The Latin is from the Hebrew. The Hebrew is from the Arabic. We went back to the Arabic.
And the Arabic
from the Persian.
The Persian from the Sanskrit.
The king was quiet.
How many languages has it crossed?
The rabbi told him.
And each time someone translated it,
it survived.
Yes.
Because the jackals were true.
Because the jackals were true.
He walked home at dusk, past the old synagogue, past the dyer's lane, where the smell of indigo lay heavy on the air. The tigers caught the last light, brown gold, then released it to the evening. He walked slowly,
63.
His knees advised against haste. He thought about the Castilian,
the young language finding its feet.
Kingdoms at edges, languages crossed edges. Languages followed the people followed the roads. And the roads at the western edge of the peninsula went somewhere no road he knew of had yet described. He could not know this. He was a man in 125. He won no map, only a slight irrational
conviction
that this language of all the languages the jackals had so far learned to speak had the furthest still to travel.
He turned into his lane.
He lit his lamp.
He wrote one sentence of Castilian.
Read it again in the loud light it held. He wrote Finny and crossed it out. It was not finished.
Did it never?
In 900 years been finished. It had only been handed forward.
One pair of hands to the next.
Each adding what it could.
Releasing
what it could not carry.
He set down the pen.
He closed the lamp.
The dagger
somewhere below the city
continued its ancient business
in the dark. valley in Normandy. Stone gone from white to gray. 140 winters. The Cistercians built low. They did not gild. They let proportion do the work of prayer. The cold came up through the flags into the bone. The scriptorium had no fire. Brother Anselm had sat at this desk for 26 years. 49. 11 complete books, 4 partial. Charters, letters, things he had stopped counting. The counting produced a pleasure he found suspect. He had been vain once of his hand, of his Latin, of his speed. The vanity was still there, quiet like a healed fracture, aching before rain. This winter, a new task, a book from Paris. John of Capua had made it Latin, from the Hebrew, from the Arabic, from somewhere further east, stories about animals, useful for sermons, the prior said. He had begun on the Monday after Epiphany. He was in his 7th week. The cold that morning was specific. The ink had tightened in the pot. He wrapped his hands in undyed wool, unwrapped only to write. The jackal had reached the lion's court. The whispering had begun. He wrote Damanacus' words, even letters, straight lines without a guide. The straight line was simply where the pen went, the way water goes to level. He wrote the logic of the whisper, each piece of evidence accurate, the whole arrangement false. The trusted friend is dangerous, his strength is a threat, his loyalty is suspect. A loyal friend who wants nothing is a friend who is waiting. Any reasonable lion would see this. Brother Anselm stopped. He looked at what he had written. In 26 years he had known 3 Damanacus. The first was a cellarer. 4 years of patient construction, a complete, accurate, misleading picture of his friend, the guest master, the large gentleman who kept the bees. The prior removed him. The bees died the following winter, untended. The second and third he did not name. Even in his own skull, he sat with the passage, the cold pressed in through the window stones. He thought, this book was written in India. It crossed into Persian, into Arabic, into Hebrew, into this Latin in which I read it. Every crossing, someone made choices, what to keep, what to carry over the border. And through all of those desks, in all of those rooms, in all of those countries, the jackal remained the same. The jackal had crossed every border without loss, because every translator had known him personally. He almost laughed, he did not laugh. The scriptorium was a room for silence. He dipped the pen, he continued. When the bell rang for vespers, he stopped. He was stiff. The cold had made its arrangements with his joints. He looked at the page, the lines were straight, the letters even. Damanacus' words preserved in Latin in his hand on good vellum. It would outlast him by centuries if the house stood, if the water stayed out of the library. Another brother would take up the copy tomorrow, or he would. It did not matter. The work was continuous. The hand that held the pen at any given hour was not the point. He covered the page against the dust. He walked into the cloister. The cold received him without ceremony. The bell counted the hour in its patient way, each tone moving outward across the Normandy fields to wherever the fields decided to stop. Behind him, on the desk, in the Latin of a man from Capua, who had worked from the Hebrew of a man from Castile, who had worked from the Arabic of a man burned in an oven in Basra, who had worked from the Pahlavi of a physician who had gone to India for a herb that did not exist. The jackal waited. Frater Damanacus, brother whisper, the same animal in every language, patient as cold, waiting for the next pair of hands. And somewhere below the city continued its ancient business in the dark.
To Paris, 1667.
the city becoming the world's idea of itself. The Louvre rising, Bernini sent home, Perrault's columns going up in the cold. Stone, proportion, confidence, the kind only a civilization at its own high watermark can manage. Behind the palace, narrow streets, horse smoke, the fat cuisine of winter, and the Seine, moving the way a river moves that has watched many cities decide they are eternal. Versailles, 12 kilometers southwest, growing outward from a hunting lodge, a proposition that kept adding evidence. 30,000 men not asked their opinion of permanence. Jean de La Fontaine was not powerful, he was something rarer, he was beloved. Beloved by readers who had found in his verse a voice that spoke to one reader as if that reader were the only one, which is the voice that lasts. Madame de la Sablière had given him a room, a desk, a bed, a window over the courtyard where the horses were kept. She knew mathematics, she knew the moons of Saturn. She gave him the room because the work was worth the trouble of the man. He found the book in October, Arabic Kalila, in French translation. He read it in 2 days, read it again in 3, carried it down to the fire on a Thursday in November. "You're not reading," she said. "You're sitting very still, which is different. I am thinking about a fox. There is no fox in that book. There will be." He told her about the jackal, about the lion and the bull, about the false evidence, each piece true. The whole arrangement a lie, about the king who received it, because the king who holds a suspicion has already decided. "This is Aesop," she said. "This is older. India, Persia, Arabic, Hebrew, in Spain, Latin, then this. Someone has been translating this jackal for 1300 years. And you want to translate it again? I want to make it verse. Prose is transparent, the reader sees through it. Verse holds the light, the reader must stop, and in that pause something enters. A fox, a crow, a wolf, a lamb, the plague, all the animals gathering in the lion's court to confess their sins. The lion is forgiven, the wolf is forgiven, the ass admits to a mouthful of grass from a monastery meadow and is hanged for it. Selon que vous serez puissant ou misérable. How long have you been carrying this? Since October. Write it tonight. He took the paper, wrote the first line, crossed it out, wrote it again in a different meter. The specific click of the right form found. He wrote for 2 hours, she finished her letters. She did not speak, she did not leave. He understood at the desk at 2 in the morning that he was not the author of this. He was the latest translator. The same thing Berzo had understood on the Plateau, the same thing Ibn al-Muqaffa had understood in Basra, the same thing Rabbi Yosef had understood in Toledo. Each had sat with the jackals, recognized them, found the new language they needed and stepped back. His contribution was the rhyme, the Alexandrine, holding the logic in a container so elegant. Readers would hear the music before they understood the argument. He wrote at the bottom, Vishnu Sharma Berzo, Ibn al-Muqaffa, the anonymous monk, David Zahid La Fontaine, and after me, someone else. He crossed it out, the poem itself was the record. Well, she said from the fire, the ass dies, the wolf is pardoned, the jackal is pleased. And you? He looked at the page outside, a cart on the cobbles, a dog's brief argument with the dog. The Seine, somewhere below the city, continued its ancient business in the dark. "I am very glad," he said, "that I cannot fall asleep."
The Republic had decided. After 2 empires, after a commune, After every catastrophe, a country can survive. The future of France was a matter of schooling. 1881, 1882, Jules Ferry, every child, 6 to 13, free, secular. The crucifix came down in its place. A woman in a Phrygian cap, in the cheaper reproductions, she looked as though she had been interrupted in the middle of an argument she was winning. The intention was the making of citizens, a population that cannot read, cannot be reasoned with, cannot be moved except by force, and force was what the Republic was trying to put behind it. Every blacksmith's son in the Dordogne reading by 9 to want to come back the next day. He needed something else. Ferry chose, among other things, La Fontaine. The school at Saint Cyprian, 2 rooms, 2 chestnut trees, bare in November. Monsieur Laurent, 28, he believed in the Republic, he believed in literacy, he believed in La Fontaine. The way a carpenter believes in a good square, not with passion, with practical respect on the blackboard. Le Loup et l'Agneau, Émile Beaulieu. 9 years old, the blacksmith's son, his hands already had the beginning of his father's hands. Brought across the palm, same trousers, 3 days out of 5. He was not the only one. He stood, hands at his sides, body upright. La raison du plus fort est toujours la meilleure. Good. A lamb at the stream, a wolf above him. The wolf accuses, the lamb objects, he's drinking downstream. The mathematics of the river prevent the offense. The wolf accuses again. Last year you spoke ill of me, the lamb. I was not yet born last year. Then it was your brother, your family, your kind. Là-dessus au fond de forêt, the wolf carries him off and eats him, sans autre forme de procès. He sat down, give it less speed. The master said the wolf is not in a hurry. He has already decided, and Emile nodded. He filed this. The butcher's son leaned forward. The wolf just eats him. What's the lesson? Emile considered the lessons. The wolf eats him. That's not a lesson. That's what happens. It happens every time. That's the lesson. At midday, he walked home, past the baker's, past the church, past the cafe, where a large man laughed at everything the mayor said. The laugh arriving a half second after the joke, precisely when it would be most useful. Never before. Emile had been noticing this for 2 years without knowing what he was noticing. He turned into the lane, the smell of coal, the smell of iron, his father's hammer, not random. The pause and the strike of a man who has been doing this for 20 years, a beat that was specifically distinguishable at a distance from any other smith in the region. He stopped. La raison du plus fort est toujours la meilleure. He had been reciting this for 3 weeks without hearing it. He heard it now, the way certain lines arrive in the body before the mind catches up, settling into the chest with the weight of something confirmed, not learned. Confirmed. The man in the cafe, the mayor's laugh, the wolf with his reasons, the lamb with his mathematics is accurate downstream. Position is not yet born, it's all the precision, all the correctness of the lamb's logic, and then the forest and the end of the argument. He was 9 years old. He did not have the word jackal. He had never heard of Vishnu Sharma, of Buzzel, of Ibn al-Muqaffa. In Saint Cyprian, La Fontaine's the man in the school book, the way Charlemagne was the man in the history book. Present, authorial, not quite alive, but the wolf was alive, standing at the stream with his reasons, and the lamb's logic was impeccable, and the lamb was dead. He walked home, his mother had left bread, a bowl of soup he ate, listening to the hammer in the next room. The pause, the strike, the pause, the strike, each blow landing exactly where his father had decided. The iron accepting this, the work continuing. The fable had entered him in the only way that matters, without his permission, through the ear, finding its channel, arriving where it would lodge. He finished the soup. He went back to school. The Wolf and the Lamb by Jean de La Fontaine. The reason of those best able to have their way is always the best. We now show how this is true. A lamb was quenching its thirst in the water of a pure stream. A fasting wolf came by looking for something. He was attracted by hunger to this place. "What makes you so bold as to meddle with my drinking?" said this animal, very angry. "You will be punished for your boldness." "Sir," answered the lamb, "let your majesty not put himself into a rage, but rather let him consider that I am taking a drink of water in the stream more than 20 steps below him, and that consequently in no way am I troubling his supply." "You do trouble it," answered the cruel beast, "and I know you said bad things of me last year." "How could I do that when I wasn't born?" answered the lamb. "I am still at my mother's breast." "If it wasn't you, then it was your brother." "I haven't a brother." "It was then someone close to you, for you have no sympathy for me. You, your shepherds and your dogs. I have been told of this. I have to make things even." Saying this into the woods, the wolf carries the lamb and then eats him without any other why or wherefore. Paris, November 1944. The city had been liberated in August. It had not yet recovered. Two things that look alike from a distance and nothing alike up close. The tanks had come down the Avenue d'Orléans. The crowd had flattened and risen again. Because cities, like crowds, learn to flatten and rise. And then November. Coal rationed. Electricity failing 3 nights of 7. Bread queues beginning before dawn. The men not yet home. The women learning a new and harder form of waiting. The waiting that knows the worst is over. It has not yet been told whether the thing it waits for is among the things that survived. Number 23, Rue de Guerre, 3rd floor. 2 rooms that had been 3 before her husband died in 1919. Madame Hélène Voltier, 73, a hip that advised against the stairs. She ignored it. The alternative was not acceptable. On the mantelpiece, her husband's photograph. On the shelf, his La Fontaine, small, blue cloth, the spine faded to gray blue. His name in pencil on the inside cover. Still legible, the way certain things remain legible long after the hand is gone. Her son Marcel was in a stalag in Silesia. The Red Cross confirmed it in July. No letter since August. She had stopped allowing herself to calculate what this meant. Lise was 6, Marcel's daughter. Her mother had died of a lung infection in the winter of 1941. The child was the step she was currently on, the only one requiring attention. The electricity failed at 6 o'clock. She lit a candle, good wax, not tallow. She told Lise to bring the book. There was only one book they read by candlelight. The candlelight made the page warm, brown edges of paper absorbing the yellow.
her husband's pencil still faint in the margins, annotations from 50 years ago. She read, Le corbeau et le renard, then le loup et l'agneau. When the wolf's last reason had been delivered, when the lamb had been carried to the forest, Lys was quiet. Grandmère, yes. Why is the wolf allowed to eat the lamb? A question she had been carrying 73 years in various forms, the form it took when she was 9, when her husband died at 31, when the buses came to the Rue de la Roquette in June 1942, when Monsieur Weil and his wife and their 2 daughters were taken, and the street watched from behind its shutters. Because the wolf is stronger, and stronger creatures sometimes tell themselves stories to justify what they do. La Fontaine wrote this so that we would remember. Did Monsieur Weil know this story? The question arrived from a direction she had not been watching. She looked at the candle. Yes, he knew it. Everyone has always known it. Then why didn't it help? She sat with this a long time. It helped the way knowing helps. It named the thing that is not protection, but when something terrible happens and you do not know what it is, you are alone with it. When you know what it is, when you know that other people have known it in other times and other places, you are less alone with it. The wolf is still there, Lys said. The wolf is still there, yes. But so is the story. She thought about Marcel, the stalag in Silesia, the letter that had not come, the buses in June, the man on the white horse in August, the crowd flattening and rising, the city releasing its hell breath. So is the story. She closed the book. She did not put it back. She held it. The small blue cloth, the faded spine, the penciled name inside the cover, the pages warm. Outside, the Rue de Guerre was quiet. The market stalls closed, the cobblestones wet. The smell of coal smoke from chimneys of buildings that still had coal. Somewhere to the north, a tram. Somewhere further, the river. She kissed the top of Lys's head. She blew out the candle. In the dark, the small blue book sat on the table between the candle holder and the folded blanket. It had come a long way to reach this table. It had further to go.
The Crow and the Fox by Jean de La Fontaine. Master Raven, perched on a tree, was holding a cheese in his beak. Master Fox, attracted by the smell, said something like this. Well, Mr. Raven, how pretty you are. How beautiful you seem to me. I'm not lying. If your voice is like your plumage, you are the phoenix of all the inhabitants of these woods. At these words, the raven is overjoyed, and in order to show off his beautiful voice, he opens his beak wide, lets his prey fall. The fox grabs it and says, My good man, learn that every flatterer lives at the expense of the one who listens to him. This lesson, without doubt, is well worth the cheese. The raven, ashamed and embarrassed, swore, but a little late, that he would not be taken again. The groove is gone. The tamarind trees, the pond where 2 jackals stood, gone. Ground became other ground, farmed, flooded, forgotten. Time erases. Time does not apologize. The hut where a lamp burned, where a young hand moved across palm leaf, gone for 17 centuries. Ctesiphon, a mound of earth beside the Tigris. The arch still stands, 1,500 years of standing. But the palace is dust, the court is dust. The road the physician walked is a different road now. His cedarwood box gone. Basra, the house where a man finished a sentence before he looked up at the soldiers, replaced many times. The canal smells different now. The palms are different palms. The oven is gone with the governor. His name survives only as a warning. Toledo, a scriptorium altered the October light of 1/2051, falling through a different window. 3 men argued whether a lion should remain a lion. Rabbi Yosef is a name in a record, his note, folded, pocketed, gone. Mortimer. The abbey still stands, the stone gray with 7 centuries of Norman reign. The bells mark the same hours. Bells have no opinion about who hears them. The cloth cover, Brother Anselm laid across the page before Vespers, dust for 500 years. Paris, the salon on the Rue Neuve des Petits Champs gone. The fire out, the chair gone. La Fontaine remembered now, only as the man on the schoolbook cover. His draft survives in an archive. It may be consulted by appointment. Saint Cyprian. The school still stands. The chestnut trees are not the same trees. A boy's voice reciting The Wolf and the Lamb on a November morning in 1883. As gone as any voice ever raised and fallen in a stone room. The Rue de Guerre, 3rd floor, number 23. The candle of November 1944. Madame Helene, gone. Marcel came home in the spring. Lice, wherever lice is. She asked a question by candlelight. It has not been answered. It will not be answered in any book. Only held, examined, passed forward. You are holding the book. This is not a metaphor. You are the latest hand in a chain of hands that reaches back 17 centuries. To a grove, to an old man of 80, to 2 jackals at the edge of a small pond. He wrote in lampblack ink. He tied the bundle with cotton thread. He asked that it be sent forward into a future he could not see and did not need to see. The book has been in Arabic and Pahlavi, in Hebrew and Latin, in Castilian and French, in the hands of a physician, a translator at midnight, a monk in a cold room, a poet by a fire, a child on a wooden bench, an old woman reading to a child by the last of the candlelight. It is in your hands now. The question it carries is always the same. The question is not about jackals. The jackals are the mask. Behind the mask is behind every mask that has lasted. A face you recognize. You know Damanacus. You have known him all your life. In every hierarchy, in every room where a whisper has found a willing ear, you have, perhaps on an unremarkable day, been him. The book does not condemn you. The book only shows what he does and what it costs and who pays. You know Karataka, the loneliness of watching from the edge, of seeing clearly, of mourning the friendship before it is ended. You have sat where he sits. Most people in most lives sit where he sits more often than they sit anywhere else. And you know the lion. This is the hardest knowing. The lion is not stupid, the lion is not wicked. The lion is a creature of great power, who is also finally alone, who listens to the voice that finds him in this aloneness and tells him his oldest friend is his enemy. This is the isolation that power produces. The book has been telling you this for 1700 years. Not because knowing will protect you. Karataka, no, it did not protect the bull. It tells you because knowing is what remains when protection fails. Because the name thing, the recognized thing, the thing written down in lampblack and reed pen, in ungal ink, in the good French of a man by a dying fire. The recognized thing is less able to destroy you completely. You are less alone with it.
Other people have watched it, other people have written it down, tied it with cotton thread, carried it across a plateau. In a cedar wood box, copied it, an old woman recited it on a wooden bench, read it aloud to a child in the park. The grove is gone, the pond is gone, the palm leaves are dust. The two jackals are on the page in front of you. They are in your mind as you read. They are still speaking. This story is yours now. It always was.
You have just finished reading 17 centuries, one story, 6 languages, one question that never changed its shape beneath the changing words. It began in a grove in Kashmir, spoken first, then written. It crossed the Plateau in Persia, moved through the streets of Baghdad, passed through the cold of a Norman scriptorium, became verse beside a candlelit fire in Paris. And then it became music on a cinema screen. A lion, a hyena, a faithful friend, and the whole world watched and recognized it instantly, because it was already inside of us. It has always been inside us. It is written in something older than language. Now, it is your turn. This book has no foreword. It refused to write one. The foreword belongs to you, the reader, who earned the right by finishing what comes after. Not a summary, not a review. The page that should appear before the story begins, in your words with your name above them. Write it. Give the book the title you would have given it. Tell me the thinking behind it. Write whatever goes through your mind. Write it where every reader who comes after will find it before they begin. Make it yours, make it the foreword this book waited for. Your writing is the next chapter. The only thing required of you is what was required of Yana, Doctor of Berzo, of Ibn al-Muqaffa, of Rabbi Yosef, of Brother Anselm, of La Fontaine, of the grandmother in the Rue de Guerre. Read it. Recognize it. Pass it forward. This story is yours now. It always was.
Uyezwana mzukulu. Do you hear, child of the line? Siezwa nati.
We hear with you.
The valley was older than its mountains. The river had no name, and 2 jackals came to the water. 2 shadows before water, 2 voices in the reed. One whispered to the other, and the world began to read.
Be the hand that holds the lamp.
Be the breath that names the storm.
From the grove to the candle.
From the palm to the page.
Be the one
who carries it forward. An old man in Kashmir, a scribe with lamplight hands, a physician on the plateau, crossing the burning sands, a poet in Basra, a monk in Norman cold, a fire in Paris, a candle in a hole.
Hamba, Nendaba.
whispers in the ear of every king. Karataka still watches from the edge of every ring. The lion still listens to the wrong voice in the dark. The bull is always faithful. The bull is always warm. But the story is still lost. The grove is gone.